2025 started off great for the PC world. RAM and storage prices were at historical lows, new GPUs from both NVIDIA and AMD were announced at CES, and AMD's two newest X3D CPUs were just around the corner. Then, we were all forced to board the struggle bus. PC part prices began fluctuating and part availability became questionable as companies either stopped shipping to the US or had to sit on stock while they waited to see what new fresh hell awaited US markets prior to importing their highly sought after goods. And with that, the struggle bus we were all made to ride, you know, the one with the terrible suspension so you felt every bump, no seatbelt so you were definitely gonna die if it crashed or at the very least lose a tooth, and windows that didn't open so you were subject to the stifling heat and exhaust fumes, steadily drove down the highway of uncertainty as days and months passed. Only recently has the chaos slightly calmed and are we able to see the glimmer of a bus stop in sight. I'm not saying prices have gone down fully to original MSRP or that parts are now overflowing both virtual and real shelves, but at least now price graphs don't look like a polygraph test after you lied about taking the last black and white cookie your wife really wanted for dessert the next day.
If people would only look to the cookie, all our problems would be solved.
The question is, can people finally disembark the struggle bus and build an affordable and performant PC with what little time remains in 2025? In today's video, we're going to find out. Welcome to the middle of nowhere.
All aboard the PC Builder's Struggle Bus. Wink.
Before I start, let me answer the question, what is a struggle bus? It's defined as a difficult, frustrating situation or task that's overwhelming and makes you feel stuck and unable to escape. I never heard of this idiom until a friend told me about it earlier this year when I was having difficulties finding PC parts in stock or at affordable prices. He suggested I do a video series about how difficult it's been to build a PC, especially if you're on a tight or struggle bus budget. And that's how we're here. Now that we know the definition of struggle bus, how does it relate to PC building? Easy. This year has been remarkably garbage for those who want to simply build a cheap and good performing PC. GPU availability at the beginning of the year was largely hit or miss, mostly miss, although things have gotten better. Prices have also been anywhere from $100 to $1,000 over MSRP, depending on the GPU model you're looking at. Thankfully, these prices are coming back down to reality.
Hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
RAM and storage prices have also increased due to high demand because of AI, and I'm pretty sure both tariffs and inflation have made the remaining components skyrocket in price and hard to come by due to companies halting delivery to the US permanently or temporarily to see where things go. To add further difficulties, budget components like last-gen CPUs and DDR4 memory have also been harder to come by at dirt cheap prices like they were at the tail end of 2024. Adding all these things together, I don't think it's a stretch to say this is all very overwhelming, especially for someone who is simply trying to build a new PC for whatever reason, be it gaming, streaming, work, school, or to replace their 2013 relic. While it may seem all doom and gloom, you can get off the bus. And in this inaugural Struggle Bus episode, I'm going to show you a PC I put together for under $650 that performs well in both 1080p and 1440p gaming, and I'll show you how you can put together a similar list of parts. This next section deals with questions to ask yourself before making a purchase, but you might be hearing some noise behind me, and that's a very old husky snoring. So you're gonna have to deal with it, I'm sorry. I do, so you do. Now that we know what the struggle bus is, specifically the PC Builder struggle bus, we can now form a strategy on how to get off it. The first step is to ask yourself some questions before you go out and buy PC components or even a pre-built PC, with the first question being, what will be the PC's primary use? Then, what is my budget? Size doesn't matter, and how big or small should I go? What is my storage strategy? What kind should I use and how much do I need? Do I need Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, or will a wired Ethernet connection suffice? How important are aesthetics? What is my upgrade path? Should I buy new or used? Are there any sales going on? And finally, and this really isn't more of a question, but a must, research, research, research. Breaking down each question, we'll start with the first. What will be the PC's primary use? Will you be using it for gaming, streaming, video editing, school, or office work, or a combination of many things? This question is the most important because it will help answer the remaining questions, especially the next one, which is, what is your budget? Your budget determines whether you can purchase all new parts, including the latest generation or one or two generations older, or if you need to consider buying used parts. Be realistic. Account for sales tax and shipping costs, and include peripherals like a monitor, keyboard, and mouse if you need them. Finally, allocate roughly 1/3 of the PC's budget to your graphics card. It also helps to leave some wiggle room for price fluctuations. Next, size. Does it matter, and how big or small should you go? PCs can be built in a variety of sizes from itty-bitty to gargantuan. At either end of the size scale, price increases for 3 key components, while it tends to decrease drastically in the middle due to greater part compatibility. Those components most affected by size are motherboards, cases, and power supplies. Case size also determines if you need to use a low-profile CPU cooler or RAM. How to know which size of PC is right for you is determined by 2 things: how much space you have, and of course your budget. If you're on a budget, you'll want to stick with an MATX or ATX motherboard and a case to match, either a mid-tower or micro ATX case. MATX motherboards tend to give up some features their larger ATX siblings have, and thus are usually cheaper, and the same can be said of MATX cases. If you intend to use a case you buy in a future build, there are many cases with a small footprint that support small and large motherboards. By contrast, the smallest motherboards, ITX, which also sacrifice many features, tend to be more expensive because companies are cramming in so many parts and things into such a small space. The cases that house these boards also tend to be more expensive, as it's more of a niche market. The largest of all motherboards, EATX, usually have the most features and cost the most as a result. Cases that support these motherboards also tend to be a bit more expensive, and not just because they fit these boards, but because they can have a lot more features like a plethora of storage bays or greater support for varying radiator and fan sizes, as well as larger graphics cards and power supplies. Speaking of power supplies, small form factor or SFF and SFFL, that's a mouthful, power supplies can be pricier than their standard ATX counterparts, again because companies must cram a lot of parts into a small space, just like with ITX motherboards. The largest wattage power supplies like 1300 watts and above tend to be much larger physically than 1000 watts and lower power supplies, as well as more expensive, so you must take that into account as well for your build. Bottom line, I suggest going with what you can afford while having an eye to the future, as the case and power supply are 2 components that can move with you into future builds. What is my storage strategy, and what kind should I use, and how much do I need? Do I need a fast SSD for my OS and a large hard drive for games and files, or just a single large SSD? Can I live with buying one drive for now and save up for another larger drive later? My answer to these questions is yes. Simply put, if you have a lot of games and don't want to constantly uninstall them to be able to install another one, or you have loads of pictures, music, and other files, you'll need a good deal of storage. A great combo that's affordable is a 1TB NVMe SSD and then a 2TB 3.5-inch hard drive. And because the fast SSD can fit the operating system, key programs, and games that need fast storage, while the slower hard drive will be more than enough for photos, music documents, and games that don't need SSD speeds. Moving on, do I need a Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, or will a wired Ethernet connection suffice? If you can't plug in next to the modem or router, you'll need Wi-Fi. If you don't mind any latency incurred by being on Wi-Fi, then buying a Wi-Fi enabled motherboard, aftermarket PCIe card, or USB device will work. If you want to connect devices via Bluetooth, a feature usually included on the Wi-Fi motherboard or PCIe card, then this too will determine the part you need to research and then buy. Now we get to the aesthetics. Looks, how important are they to you? We live in an age of colorful lights and cases, and even white components often have a higher price tag over their black counterparts. If you want flashy lights or a case that's a bumblebee yellow or purple, if you want braided cable extensions, your costs are going to increase. Do I build a system that can be easily upgraded with new components, or should I go with affordability by building on a dead-end platform, even if it still performs well? Answering this question can be difficult, and is what makes this part of riding the struggle bus so hard. Going with either current or old parts has positives and negatives, dealing with both cost and feature support. If you do go with an older platform that has no upgrade path for the CPU, RAM, or motherboard, you can always sell those components to help recoup the cost of a future upgrade, or give it to a sibling or kid or whatever for hand-me-down. I think the best advice I can give here is to look at the available platforms, see which one currently has the best support and will continue to do so for a year or more, and go with that one. This way you won't have to upgrade 3 major components to have a better PC. Hint, it's AMD's AM5 platform, at least for now. Buying used can save you money, which is almost always a good thing. The main pitfall is dealing with a dishonest seller. So make sure you cover your butt and buy from places that allow returns. Two components I'd never recommend buying used are power supplies and storage drives. Both mechanical and solid state drives have limited lifespans, so you don't want to unknowingly buy a drive that's on borrowed time, and the same goes for power supplies. If they've been pushed hard by the previous owner, you could end up with this part failing, which in turn could fry your whole system, and that's no good. Regarding used GPUs, find out if it's been used for mining and consider buying replacement thermal paste and thermal pads for it, as you more than likely will want to replace those. Finally, you can always ask the seller to send you a video of the part working if it's in a completed system. And should you make the purchase, you may have to thoroughly clean anything you buy, so invest in 99% isopropyl alcohol, Q-tips, and coffee filters, as those don't leave particles behind like paper towels do. The next question, which doesn't really have to do with the parts, but more of the whole shopping experience, is what sales are coming up. Companies love holidays to drive sales and have even started making up their own to try and increase purchases. If you can wait, you can save a little to a lot of money by shopping during these sales events, be it Prime Day, Black Friday, which is apparently all of November now, near the Super Bowl, or really any holiday at all. For the PC build in this video, I bought nearly all my components on Amazon during Prime Day in July, and I saved around 10 to 20% compared to the prices after the event ended. I did comparisons before, during, and after. Additionally, start paying attention to price trends months before you actually buy a part, so you know if you're actually saving money or not. Resources like 𝐂𝐸 browser plugin tracks Amazon price data, so you know if the current price is high, low, or average. And sites like PCPartPicker.com pull prices from multiple stores, so you can get a good idea of what a good price is for a particular component. Finally, research. Always get as much information about the CPU and GPU you intend to buy, because this will inform you about what motherboards you should look at, RAM you should consider, and the minimum power supply wattage you should buy. Your budget will inform you what you can afford, but your research will let you know which versions of those affordable components you should purchase. Remember too that the cheapest option isn't always the best, so read consumer reviews and read and watch reviewer content as well, like my videos. Now that we know the questions, let's answer them for the build I made for today's video, which you'll see in a second. What is the primary use of this PC? I'll be using this PC for mostly gaming. I want to be able to play a variety of games like Fortnite or Elden Ring, and I might want to try to play more demanding games like Cyberpunk 2077 or Baldur's Gate 3. What's my budget? $600 to $700 before taxes and shipping. How big or small am I building? I have the space, so I'll go with a mid-tower case and an ATX motherboard and power supply. What's my storage strategy? What kind should I use and how much do I need? I'll just stick to one hard drive for now. It'll be a 1TB SSD to save money and I'll remove games I don't play should space become tight. I can always upgrade to more storage later. Do I need Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, or will a wired Ethernet connection suffice? Wired will suffice, but should I need a Wi-Fi connection or want Bluetooth, I'll look into a solution later. How important are aesthetics? I like a little bling, some lights, some color to bring in the pizzazz, but I'm willing to not have lights so I can save money here. What is my upgrade path? I'll keep the case and power supply for a future build, but I'm willing to go with an older motherboard, CPU, and RAM combo to save money now. Will I buy new or used? I'll primarily buy new components, but to save money on my GPU, I'll buy that used. By no means is this list of questions exhaustive. There are always more we can ask before committing to such large purchases. If there are any questions you think I should have added to the list, leave a comment and let me know, and I'll add them for future episodes. With the questions answered, let's go over the PC parts, part by part. I'll provide insight into my decisions, and I'll also provide alternatives. I'll leave links to both the parts I used and the mentioned alternatives in the description. Starting with the CPU, I chose the AMD Ryzen 5 5600 as it seems to have the best price to performance when compared to the 5600X and the much cheaper 5500. While the 5600 has a base and boost clock speeds of 200 MHz lower than the 5600X, it has the same 32 MB of L3 cache and supports PCIe 4.0, whereas the 5500 only supports PCIe 3.0 and has 16 MB of L3 cache. The slower PCIe speeds combined with the lower amount of cache will impact your gaming experience, so keep that in mind when deciding on this part. The 5500 is selling for around $84 and it comes with the Wraith Stealth cooler. If you're going for an ultimate budget build, this is a hell of a way to save some money. If you look hard enough, you can find the 5600 for around $95 to $110 on sites like AliExpress or eBay, but odds are it won't come with the cooler, which means you'll need to make an additional purchase. More on that in a bit. I purchased my 5600 for $93.13 before taxes with no shipping from AliExpress. I also already had an AMD stock cooler on hand, which I bought for $15 on eBay a few years ago. Ultimately, the 5600 is the better performer compared to the 5500. You'll have both higher average frame rates and higher 1% and 0.1% lows with that CPU. However, if you're a casual gamer or someone who just messes around in Minecraft and plays only the occasional Rocket League or Fortnite match, I would suggest you save money and buy the 5500. Then you can put what you didn't spend in a different part. To keep your CPU cool in a budget build, I suggest just sticking with the stock cooler that comes with your CPU. While not the best, AMD's coolers do an adequate job keeping temperatures in check. Having said that, if your CPU doesn't come with a cooler for whatever reason, the Thermalright Burst Assassin 120 ARGP, which has 6 heat pipes, is an affordable option. While I can't attest to the Burst Assassin's performance, I have used the Thermalright Assassin X120 Refined SE ARGB to cool a Ryzen 5600G, and it has 2 less heat pipes and a narrower fin stack compared to the Burst Assassin. But when pitted against AMD's Wraith Stealth cooler, it reduced the 5600G's idle temperatures by 8 degrees Celsius and a whopping 20 degrees when under load during a Cinebench test. Check out my video on it. For the motherboard, I went with the B550 chipset, as it has the best features to cost ratio for AM4 CPUs. Price-wise, I wanted to limit myself to around $89 and no more than $100. I could have gone with the ASRock Phantom Gaming 4 AC, which I've used before and have a video on as well, but I wanted to try a motherboard I hadn't used before, and I found a great deal on a Gigabyte B550 Gaming X V2 for $85. At its current price of $109, I wouldn't recommend it, as there are other motherboards available with more USB ports on the rear I/O, including Type-C, and even Wi-Fi that cost less at the time of this video. Having said all that, besides the amazing price at the time of purchase, I chose this Gigabyte motherboard because of the integrated I/O shield, which is always nice, the power delivery heat sinks, the BIOS flash button on the rear I/O, a plethora of PCIe slots, and as a bonus, it has USB Type-C header for your case's front I/O, should it have that port. Here's some other alternative motherboards I'd recommend over the Gaming X V2. The first one being the Gigabyte B550 Eagle Wi-Fi 6. It doesn't have an integrated I/O shield, but it has Wi-Fi 6, 2 more USB ports including a Type-C port, a front Type-C header, and a BIOS flash button on the back. The next motherboard is the MSI MPG B550 Gaming Plus. It doesn't have Wi-Fi, but it does have an integrated I/O shield, 2 more USB ports, including a Type-C port, a BIOS flash button, and a Type-C header for the case. The MSI B550A Pro is the third motherboard I'd recommend, and while this motherboard lacks Wi-Fi, it has more USB ports than the Gigabyte Gaming X, including a Type-C port. It has a Type-C header for the front and has a BIOS flashback button. I've made a video on this motherboard and have used it in a couple of PC builds without issue. Finally, ASRock's Phantom Gaming 4 AC, which I already mentioned. It costs the least of all these motherboards, has Wi-Fi 6, but does not have a front USB Type-C header or BIOS flashback button. Unfortunately, DDR4 RAM prices have been steadily increasing this year, mostly because, yes, Bubbles. All right, my dog is he's just having a great nap, all right? He's old, he's about 12 years old. He's just having a good nap, so gonna keep this in. I think I'll keep this in the video. I'm just gonna rewind a little bit. He's my good time boy.
Because he's my best friend, he's my pal, he's my homeboy, my rotten soldier, he's my sweet cheese, my good time boy.
Now onto the memory. Unfortunately, DDR4 RAM prices have been steadily increasing this year, mostly because RAM manufacturers have decided to stop making it, and the demand by AI companies is so high they're eating up all available stock and manufacturing capacity. Consumer demand for DDR4 as well as DDR5 has also remained high all year, resulting in the extinction of dirt cheap RAM kits. Fortunately, as with other parts during Prime days, I was able to find an affordable 32GB kit of DDR4 3600 CL18 from PNY Accelerate for $56. It doesn't have RGB, which is fine, and if you're seeking RGB RAM, expect a $10 to $15 light tax associated with it. Sadly, as of this video, the kit I purchased is unavailable, which is the story of DDR4 as a whole. Finding new kits that are also affordable has become difficult, but not impossible. To maintain the budget identity of this PC and to save money, my advice to you is to go the used route, buy a lesser known brand, or consider a 16GB kit over 32. Just like RAM, storage prices have gone up in 2025, making it tough for budget builders. To get the most out of your storage, consider a two-part approach. First, buy a 1TB NVMe M.2 drive for your operating system, games that need fast storage, and other key programs. Then add a 2TB spinning hard drive like the Seagate Barracuda for documents, images, and games that don't require the speed of an M.2 drive. The Barracuda is currently priced at $65, but keep an eye out for sales as it often drops to around $50. At the time of this video, I'd advise against buying a 2.5-inch SATA SSD over an NVMe M.2 drive, as they're basically priced the same while being slower than an M.2 drive. For this build, I chose the Team Group T-Force G50 1TB NVMe SSD for $56. It's PCIe 4.0 with read and write speeds of up to 5,000 and 4,800 megabytes respectively per second. It uses 3D TLC NAND modules, has an SLC cache, and uses the Integrate controller. While I usually prefer an NVMe drive with DRAM cache, skipping that feature saved me some money. Alternative M.2 drives I'd recommend, if you can find them, are the Patriot P400 Lite, Crucial's P3 Plus, or the Lexar 1TB NQ780. If you're able, try and stay within the $60 to $80 range for a 1TB NVMe drive. Ideally, budget PC builders should ask themselves this main question: what's the most affordable case I can buy that comes with the most fans? Cheap isn't always bad with regards to this part, and I've built my fair share of PCs in budget cases. If they come with fans, you'll save money in the long run. But if the case doesn't have enough or any at all, look at Thermalright or Arctic for fans that are both good quality and inexpensive. One thing I'd recommend avoiding are cases with Molex connected fans, as they are not controllable and will always run at max speed. One feature that is no longer considered a luxury and is present in even the most affordable of cases is a glass side panel. You can possibly save money by getting a case without one, but if you want to see your parts, make sure to keep this feature in mind. Features that you may have to sacrifice when buying a budget case are cable grommets, which make cable routing look nice, and reusable PCIe slot covers, but you can always buy replacements later. Do be aware if you have a white case and need replacement slot covers that you can buy ones that match your case's shade of white. Finally, many case makers are still treating the USB Type-C port as a luxury, so budget cases may forgo this port in the front I/O. If this feature is a must for you, there are affordable case options that have it. For this build, I bought the Antec DF700 Flux mid-tower case. Its original MSRP was around $104, but I was able to get it on sale for $79.99 with an additional $10 rebate on top of that. It comes with 5 3-pin fans, 3 of which are ARGB, and all of them can connect to a hub that's on the case's back. The DF700 also has a glass side panel and reusable PCI slot covers. What it lacks are cable grommets and a front USB Type-C port. Originally released in 2021, I think this case was the start of Antec's renaissance into this component space. The DF700 was positively received by customers and reviewers alike, and future iterations of the Flux improved on this design. Building in the case was easy and went without issue. Velcro cable straps helped wrangle cables, and it has a removable hard drive cage as well as 2 sleds for 2.5-inch drives, one of which I used for a spinning hard drive I included in this build that I just kind of found. I dug it. I think it was my old PS4 drive, so you know, there's that. But it will help increase the storage. As for alternatives to the Antec DF700 Flux, I'd recommend the Phanteks Eclipse G370A. It has 3 ARGB fans at the front, a glass side panel, and it even has a USB Type-C port on the front I/O, but it has no cable grommets. You'll also want to buy an extra fan for rear installation to help with exhaust, and possibly one more for top exhaust. A second alternative would be one of the many affordable cases for Montec, like the XR. It has front and side glass panels, comes with 3 ARGB fans, has cable grommets, and has a USB Type-C port. With both these cases, you'll save money compared to what I spent, while still coming away with a nice home for all your components. As I previously said, don't skimp on the power supply. They're essential. Aim for one with a 10-year warranty if you can find it, or maybe 5 to 10, but 10 best, and enough wattage for future upgrades. And it's probably wise to not go the used route. For this build, I chose the MSI Mag A750GL. It's a 750 watt power supply that's fully modular, it's ATX 3.1 and PCIe 5.1 compliant, and is 80+ gold certified. To see if the power supply you're looking at is of good quality, check out the PSU tier list maintained by users from ZachTechTurf's Discord. I've put a link to it in the description. Stick to power supplies rated C tier or above for quality and reliability. Brands I've used in the past and consider trustworthy include Seasonic, Be Quiet, Corsair, Inwin, and DVGA. I snagged the MSI power supply on sale for $79.99, but it's now over $100. To save money, consider a semi-modular or non-modular power supply with an 80+ bronze rating or higher. And also look into Cybernetics ratings, which is fastly replacing the 80 plus rating. One such PSU I can recommend is the 750 watt Montech APX. While it's cheap, it isn't modular, isn't PCIe 3.1 or ATX 5.1 compliant, and it's only 80 plus certified, no bronze or gold. It's a literal example of getting what you pay for. A functional PSU that has zero frills. It also has a C- rating on the tier list, so having said that, if you really want to put more of your budget into other parts, this is one way to do it. Other alternative power supplies you might consider are the Rosewill VMG 750 or the Montech Century 2 850, the latter of which is better than its APX sibling in almost every way for about $35 more. Finally, we come to the GPU, and this part can make or break your gaming experience. Because the remaining budget for this PC is around $150 to $200, I looked to the used market to save money there, and I went through eBay as it has buyer protection should the part not work. I ended up buying an XFX Radeon RX 5700 XT Thick 3 Ultra. It's a GPU I've wanted for a while, mostly because of its design. And after talking with a friend, I know the cooler is overbuilt and can handle the heat the silicon produces. As soon as the GPU arrived in the mail, I put together the parts for a test bed and booted it up. Everything I bought new and the used GPU worked great. With a sigh of relief, all that was left was to thoroughly clean the card as it looked like a smoker owned it. After carefully cleaning the shroud and fans, I took the GPU apart, cleaned off the old thermal paste, and added new paste. Finally, I replaced the thermal pads with new ones, which was an added cost. Should you buy a used GPU, I highly recommend you clean as much of it as you can without taking it apart. Next, use to see what its idle and low temperatures are. Then go online and compare your temperatures to those recorded by other owners and reviewers. If your temps are higher, take the GPU apart, clean and replace the old thermal paste, and research the thermal pad thickness needed to replace those. It's a bit of work and some extra cost, but trust me, it's worth it. After a 6-minute firmware test, which is very GPU intensive, the 5700 XT reached 58 degrees Celsius for the GPU, 68°C on the hotspot, and 64°C for the VRAM. Unfortunately, I didn't do a test before cleaning it and replacing the thermal paste and pads, but my recorded temperatures during the firmware test were lower compared to the temperatures recorded in a Tech Power-Up review, which I've put a link to in the description if you'd like to read that. The 5700 XT is 4 generations old, and while it is PCIe 4.0 capable, it only has 8 GB of VRAM, which might be an issue when trying to play more demanding titles. However, it's still enough for many older esports games. Due to its age, the Thick 3 doesn't have any modern features like ray tracing or mesh shader support, but its raster performance is still decent by today's standards. As for price, the average I found on eBay at the time of this video is around $130 to $150, but it might be going up a little bit. So if you're looking for an alternative to this card, here are some GPUs to consider. The NVIDIA RTX 3060 12GB. Used or possibly new, you can find around $200 to $250. The Intel Arc B580 12GB card. New at $250, which is its MSRP, so don't pay more than that. An AMD Radeon RX 6700 XT 12GB card. Used, you can find it anywhere from around $250 to $280. And finally, the AMD Radeon RX 7600 8GB card, which for used, you can find around $200 to $250. Of the GPUs I listed, the Intel Arc B580 would be the one I would aim for, as its current gen, you can readily buy it new, and Intel's been adding performance with each driver update, which is awesome. If you do want one of the alternative graphics cards I mentioned, you may have to increase your GPU budget from $150 to as high as $280, which you can achieve if you spend less on other parts, like the case, RAM storage, or the power supply. More than likely though, you'll have to increase your overall PC budget from $600 to $700. Now that you know the parts in this PC build, let me show you a rundown of the cost per component. And I'll be showing 3 lists of parts and prices. The first 2 lists will use the same parts that are in this build, but are what I paid versus what is current. The third list utilizes some of the alternative parts I mentioned, but it's also more expensive than what I paid back in July due to the many reasons I've already talked about. However, you'll find there are no used parts. Keeping in mind the budget for this PC is a range, not a set amount, we do have some wiggle room, but really anything left unspent would be put towards taxes, shipping, and of course, an operating system. Unless you're using Linux, of course. For this build, I paid $605.57. If you were to buy the parts for this PC today, you'd pay over $750, and that's just no good. This increase is enough to give a budget builder pause. However, if you opted to buy any of the alternate parts I recommended, you could build yourself a reasonably powerful PC with no used parts for under or near the top end of our budget, range of $700. And this includes a more modern and powerful GPU in the Intel Arc B580. The biggest sacrifice to this version of the build would be RAM, as it only has 16 gigabytes instead of 32, and the ASRock motherboard, which while decent, is a bit anemic feature-wise. If you need a board with more to offer, spend that extra $10 to $20 on one of the other motherboards I mentioned. One other thing of note is if you're fine with sticking with the Radeon RX 5700 XT, you can reduce the alternate PC price by roughly around $100. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, just depends on how much that used GPU costs. Now that I've bored you to death, hopefully not, with advice on what questions to ask yourself, what to look out for, waiting for sales, so patience is key. That's enough talking about cost. Let's move on to performance. I tested 4 games at 1080p and 1440p using various settings with this system. The games tested are Rocket League, CSGO 2 or Counter-Strike 2, whatever, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, just its benchmark, and Cyberpunk 2077, but I played that, not the benchmark. Can this budget PC do the job, or will it fail on arrival? Let's have a look at the frame rates I achieved while testing. Ready, set, go. I were to describe my gaming experience with this on the 3 games that I actually played, again, Tomb Raider was a benchmark, it would be smooth. I encountered no hitching. It was easy to die in Counter-Strike because I suck at it, but I was able to get some cool kills too, admittedly with the bots only, so that I could actually make use of Afterburner. But it was smooth. Rocket League was online with other players, and again, just really nice. And I, again, suck at that game as well. Then when I got to Cyberpunk, I encountered no issues either when driving through the massive landscape of the city or in combat when I was taking on some cyber criminals or whatever the hell they are, gangbangers, I guess. But yeah, so, you know, lots of explosions, shooting, twitch movements. It was smooth as all get out. And that's while employing FSR 3. And I noticed no artifacting either, which was nice. I'm not a pixel peeper, so I don't know. I'm sure there's scientific methods to that. But from an anecdotal, how did I feel while playing this game? It was great, and I had fun. It was smooth, and that's all, you know, you can ask for, especially when you have a budget build. So this brings up another point. This GPU is 4 generations old, and yet a modern game, again, it's about 3 years old now, maybe a little older, like Cyberpunk, which still, you know, being the new crisis, pushes systems to their limits, this system could handle it. Admittedly, I did have to finesse it. I didn't go on high settings. I used, performance. I favored performance on FSR to get the highest frame rates. But in 1440p, it played just great. And that's all you can ask for, right? So I have no doubt that if this upgraded to a more modern graphics card, maybe just 1 generation old even, that it would perform even better. The CPU is quite capable. And if you don't want to employ features like FSR because they're fake frames or whatever, I have good news. You could achieve decent frame rates by lowering the resolution and also maybe lowering the settings to medium as opposed to high, and achieve what I achieved with FSR 3.0 on. Now, you might lose a little bit of fidelity, but your gaming experience will largely be the same without any of those, you know, fake frames getting rendered, which again, I didn't see them, but can lead to artifacts or just some weirdness, right? Others have pointed it out, and so I don't disbelieve them. But for me, again, anecdotally, didn't experience it. It was super fun, and I've yet to beat that game. I mostly just play it for testing. As for temperatures, the CPU never got above 71 degrees Celsius, and the GPU never went higher than 77 degrees Celsius, with the hotspot never reaching over 89 and 80 degrees respectively. And this was all in a room with an ambient temperature of around 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit. As for the noise, it's not the quietest during gaming, with around a dB level of 57, but it's also not the loudest, and it was pretty quiet during general use when I was just browsing the web to download some software and things. That's all I have to say about performance. If you have any games that you think I should add to my library of testing, let me know. I'll give them a purchase, especially with Steam sales coming up in the holidays. Things will be a little bit cheaper. I have been eyeballing Sifu. I don't know how demanding that game is, but it was on sale recently. Hopefully it still is for 15 bucks. It looks cool, so maybe I'll get that. Expedition 33 is another one I wanted to try. I'm really bad about just loading a library and never playing a game. But yeah, anyway, any games that are kind of anywhere from esports to high-end, let me know, and I'll put it on my list to try and get. I buy everything myself, so that's why I kind of continue to use something like Shadow of the Tomb Raider as it's older. This was a fun PC to put together, from concept to execution. I enjoyed researching components and coming up with a parts list. I was thrilled to save quite a bit of money, and I was impressed by the smooth and fun gaming experience. I encountered no hitching or stutters, and even though Cyberpunk pushed the system, I had zero issues playing the game, both when driving around the massive city and during combat, which I previously mentioned. Despite its age, it's great to see that 5700 XT can keep pace in such a demanding title, and I love that it can make use of the modern features like FSR 3, which helped maintain the higher average frame rate while still playing at 1440p resolutions. As for price, let me summarize what I mentioned or intimated earlier in the video. To get the most bang for your buck, you need to research your parts, become a price watcher, stay informed so you know what trends are impacting component prices, take advantage of sales events, and finally, don't be afraid to go the used route. While affordable PC building has become a struggle these days, Coming up with a budget and then sticking to it is not impossible. If you do what I did and are patient above all else, you too can get off the PC builder's struggle bus and build a PC that both performs well and doesn't empty your wallet. And that's all I have to say about this budget PC build. What do you think of it? What component changes would you make to save even more money? Would you opt for the Ryzen 5500 over the 5600, despite its limitations? Leave a comment letting me know. Thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for hanging out with me. Hit the like button, leave any questions or comments you have down below, and while you're here, help the channel and community grow by getting subscribed. As always, I'll see you next time in the middle of nowhere. Buy anything right now. Oh, hi, Bubba. Hi. Hold on. You want to be in the video? Come here. No? Alright. Hi. Finally, oh. No? He's right here now. Finally, as the holiday season is upon us, my advice to you is to not buy anything right now. Instead, monitor prices.